I never believed I could transform my life with just 8 life-changing tips from a millionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I stood in front of that crumbling hotel, the very same place where dreams came to die. The air was thick, my throat dry, but I could feel the buzzing electricity of hope. It was the moment I met him, the millionaire. His eyes held secrets, like dark pools waiting to drown me. A pulse of anticipation thumped through my veins. I had nothing left to lose. Just weeks prior, I lay awake at night, staring at the cracks in my ceiling, wondering how my life had spiraled so far. Bills piled up like unwanted guests. My once supportive partner now barely acknowledged me. The distance between us felt like a chasm. All I wanted was to escape. Then came the mysterious invitation. A simple note slipped under my door. Everything can change. Meet me. My heart trembled, a mix of fear and curiosity. Who was this man? What could he possibly offer me? The first tip came as a whisper in my ear, a promise wrapped in charisma. Focus on what scares you. I lacked the courage to face my failure. But standing there, with my feet rooted on the cracked pavement, I knew I needed to leap. As he detailed his rise from a broken family to untold wealth, I felt an odd pull, the urge to believe. I watched him, breath held tight in my chest as each word fell like heavy raindrops, drenching my barren hopes. There was a confident glint in his smirk, a flicker of something sinister beneath the charm. The room pulsed with tension, as if we were both teetering on the edge of an unknown abyss. The tips unfolded like petals, strange yet compelling. The second tip? Embrace the risk. My heart thundered. Everything inside screamed, "What if you fail?" I felt my hands shake, a storm of panic swirling. But what if I didn't? He leaned closer, his voice smooth as silk. To fail is to learn. Each word stuck to me like heavy honey, sickened and intrigued me all at once. As I absorbed his wisdom, I could sense the lingering shadows lurking in the corners of the room, whispering, reminding me of my inadequacies, of the very real risks involved. But the tantalizing spark of possibility ignited something deep within me. I was desperate for change. With each successive tip, I lost myself in the whirlwind. I could hardly think. The air grew thicker, heavy with unuttered fears and boiling passions. Running a business, facing public neglect, igniting my very soul. How could I ever step into that fire? The $1,000,000 smile he wore masked the weight of his own past. I had to wonder, was this person really capable of transforming lives, or was I simply chasing a ghost? And just when I thought I was grasping the light, he leaned back, his enigmatic gaze piercing. The last tip, it's the hardest. My breath hitching, I hung on his every word, feeling the room close in around us. You must confront your darkest fears. A chilling silence enveloped us, the air heavy with unasked questions. I could feel the weight of clarity shatter like glass. What lay behind those fears? Before I could gather my thoughts, he smiled, Agaraina predator's grin, chilling and electrifying. He paused, the room laden with tension. Are you ready to let it all go? My heart thundered in my ears. What was I walking into? What more would I have to sacrifice? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days following our meeting blurred into a haze of anxiety and tentative hope. Each tip reverberated through my mind like echoes in a vast canyon, yet the weight of them draped heavily on my shoulders. I left that hotel intoxicated by possibility, but I soon faced the reality that transformation was chaos masked in beauty. My partner, Simon, had all but moved into a separate reality. His silence grew more profound, turning dinner conversations into awkward exchanges of stilted breaths and avoiding glances. We used to share dreams and laughter. But now our home felt caught in a freezing stillness that gnawed at my already frayed nerves. Each disappointment felt louder than the last, piercing through me as if I was a raw nerve ending point. One evening, after a particularly strained dinner, I ventured out to the small park that bordered our apartment, a tiny refuge that had seen better days. Twilight draped the ground in rich indigos, and flickering street lamps speared the shadows, casting elongated reflections on fallen leaves. I sat on a weathered bench, heart racing, grappling not only with the tips but with the growing chasm between Simon and me. As I sat lost in my tumultuous thoughts, I noticed an elderly woman feeding birds beneath a gnarled oak. Her gentle laugh sweetened the air. The world around me, dark and heavy, seemed to pivot softly toward her warmth. Each bird that approached her danced with a startling trust, and for a brief moment, I marveled at the simplicity of kindness, an antidote to my despair. "Are they not wonderful?" she asked, glancing upward, her eyes shimmering like dewdrops. I nodded, surprised by the warmth of her gaze. "They remind me of hope," she said, tossing crumbs with a gentle grace that seemed crafted from her years of patience. "Hope," I whispered it like an incantation. In that moment, unburdened by my internal chaos, I found a flicker within. Perhaps it was achievably renewed connection, not just with Simon but with every fragmented piece of myself. But just as swiftly, my fear clawed back, etching a reminder of the sacrifices required to reignite that hope. That as I meandered back home, thoughts crashed through my mind, battles between my desire for freedom and my deep-seated fear of failure. Would I have to sacrifice the love I still clung to? The enigma of that millionaire's dark grin twisted in my memory. If I wanted to transform, how many pieces of my heart would it cost? Days bled into one another, each bringing forth reminders of what was at stake. The millionaire promised greatness. The cost, however, remained cloaked in shadows. I began implementing his tips tentatively, sketching outlines of what my entrepreneurial dreams might bloom into. I reached out to potential clients, rattled off pitches, and invested in skills I never thought I would need, all while Simon became less and less involved in our lives. Each moment felt borderline absurd. I flourished in my newfound aspirations, yet I was stifled by the familiar weight of loneliness. It was during this turbulent time that the universe offered an unexpected kindness. On the last Saturday of the month, a community fair flooded the small park with laughter and life, rekindling warmth in the air. Abandoning my worries momentarily, I wandered among the stalls, absorbing the joy around me. I spotted a colorful booth run by a local artist selling painted rocks, whimsically adorned with uplifting phrases. I approached, drawn to the vibrant colors splashed across the smooth stones. The artist, a cheerful young woman who radiated positivity, offered me one that read, "Courage begins with showing up." Her words pierced through my fog of indecision, igniting a fire that propelled me forward. I purchased the stone, clutching it tightly as a talisman against fear. That night, I set it on our dining table as a reminder of the path I was carving, desperate to bring Simon into my vision. When he returned from work, his eyes fell on the stone. His brow furrowed in confusion mixed with a hint of nostalgia. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, voice heavy with unspoken concern. I hesitated, wanting to share everything, the fears, the triumphs, the shifting sands of my ambitions, but the words caught in my throat. Here stood my lifeline, yet the chasm felt insurmountable. Just then, my phone pinged, a text from the millionaire. "Ready to confront your darkest fears?" The words throbbed between us like a lightning bolt, filling the air with tension, overshadowing the tentative connection we were trying to forge. Simon glanced at my phone. "What is that?" He leaned closer, suspicion knitting his brow. My heart dropped. I was faced with the ultimatum: to open my world or sink back into the comfort of silence. Would this new path tear us apart or pull us together? I clenched my jaw, the weight of the moment enveloping me. It's a long story. The flicker of hope illuminated my resolve sequentially. I could either let the risk of failure frighten me into submission or use it to light the way toward a truth we desperately needed to confront together. But as I glanced back at the text, unsure of how to respond, I realized that every choice came with its own darkness and light, a dichotomy that reality thrived upon. Could I truly embrace the tumultuous changes ahead, especially when faced with the looming threat of losing everything I held dear? The uncertainty pulsed dangerously as I stole a cautious glance at Simon. Hidden truths danced between us, heavy with promise, fear, and the desire to connect. And just like that, darkness and light surged through me, swirling in a chaotic dance, leading me to the edge of a decision that would either forge a bridge or create another rift between my past and my uncertain future. I took a deep breath, the air crackling with unspoken energy. How could I show up when I had no idea what awaited me in the shadows? The days that followed felt like a twisted waltz of anxious anticipation and hollow moments. I became acutely aware of the shifting dynamics at home. Simon would sit across from me at the dining table during dinner, his expressions often clouded with confusion, his tone laced with a suggestion of disappointment that lingered like smoke. Yet I sensed resentment bubbling beneath the surfacia mix of fear and frustration that echoed back at me. My heart ached for the conversations we used to share. Laughter had once filled our home, but now silence wrapped around us like an asphyxiating layer of stillness. One night, after a particularly vexing day where my entrepreneurial efforts had gone awry, I retreated to the small park once again, seeking solace among the towering trees and soft murmurs of leaves in the wind. The bench where I sat had become my refuge, a sacred space where I could unravel my thoughts, even as they felt knotted and frazzled. I covered my face with my hands, feeling the weight of isolation squeeze tight around my chest. Flashes of uncertainty shot through me. Who was I becoming? And was this new version worth the price I might pay? A subtle rustling broke my spiral of despair, and when I looked up, I saw the elderly woman from before, sitting on a nearby bench. Without words, she smiled at me, an unspoken understanding passing between us. There was something inherently wise in her gaze, something that whispered of life's inevitable ebbs and flows. She gestured to the sky where the first stars flickered to life, as if reminding me that even in darkness, beauty remained. Sometimes we find ourselves changed in the most unexpected ways, she said gently, her voice a soothing balm. It's not always easy, but you must trust the process. Her words hung in the air, each syllable resonating deeply, forcing me to ponder whether the life I envisioned was worth the sacrifices I was making. Could I truly follow through with this journey, knowing it might pull me farther from the man I loved? Torn between ambition and love, I felt an invisible tangle of threads constricting me, and the subsequent days, I found myself caught in a cycle of validation. I immersed myself in work, chasing every lead that came my way, but every triumph felt tainted, overshadowed by the growing divide between Simon and me. I shoved my feelings deep down, afraid of speaking up, fearing it would only widen the chasm. Then came the unexpected kindness again. A small moment on a Tuesday when I received an email from a potential client whose interest had unexpectedly revived. The exhilaration of this small victory sent warmth rushing through my veins, a brief reminder of life blooming anew amidst the turmoil. I couldn't help but share my excitement with Simon, pulling him into the reality I'd been crafting on my own. But instead of sharing his support, he looked at me with unmasked worry. "You're changing, and I don't know if I recognize you anymore," he murmured, the tremor in his voice slicing through me. The mere acknowledgement of my transformation felt heavy, laden with unspoken questions about my loyalties and intentions. "You should be proud of me," I exclaimed, the frustration spilling over. "I'm finally doing something for myself." "What does that mean for us?" Simon's words hung in the air, a haunting question I had been avoiding. Each syllable crashed in my chest like waves against jagged rocks, churning up doubts that had once been buried beneath the surface. "I don't know, I just want you to see me, to understand that this is something I have to explore." The rawness of my emotions broke through, revealing a crack in my facade. Yet the lingering question unsettled the air between us, vibrating with the gravity of my choices. A moment hung suspended, and the universe sighed, echoing laughter and shadows intertwining. I glanced at Simon, searching for a flicker of understanding, but what I found was a storm brewing behind his eyes. It felt as if the distance we had ignored was suddenly impossible to dismiss any longer. My heart raced at a new revelation, one I had long feared would break me entirely. That evening, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed once more with a message from the millionaire, promising a breakthrough if I followed his next steps. In a wave of irony, I felt the pull of ambition grappling against my love for Simona, precarious tightrope between two lives I couldn't seem to balance. If I chose to follow this path, there loomed the possibility of danger. Yet if I didn't, I risked suffocating in complacency. Just then, as I teetered on the brink of a decision, a loud crash echoed from the living room, a sound that shattered my already fragile heart and brought with it an unbearable tension, stirring a panic within me. Rushing out, my mind raced, wondering what disaster awaited me. Had Simon given up? Had the weight of my silence become too much for him to bear? I turned the corner, bracing for impact, only to find Simon standing in the middle of the room, staring blankly at my broken laptop lying on the ground. A fraught silence enveloped us, thick and stinging, as his gaze met mine, tinged with hurt and unshed tears. The moment held a profound weight, daring me to confront not just the broken computer, but the very foundations of our relationship. The air crackled with unexpressed feelings, with uncharted fears pulling me closer to the brink of revelation, a desperate truth I could no longer deny. Would this be the breaking point, or the moment that drew us back together? Time stretched endlessly, the chaos of my aspirations and our love swirling in a poignant dance of uncertainty. The revelation surged forward, waiting to be unleashed, but I stood there, vulnerably enmeshed in the shadows of my choices, unable to discern which way to leap next. The remnants of silence cracked in the wake of the catastrophe as I carefully approached the wreckage of my shattered laptop. It felt like a metaphor for everything that was fraying between us, the very technology that had served as a lifeline to my dreams now reduced to a heap of plastic and broken circuitry on the floor. Simon, I began, but the words lodged in my throat. The weight of the moment pressed down, choking off the air between us. His eyes were wide, lost, and the flutter of his breath was the only sound in the room. The desperation for understanding swirled in my chest, but I had no idea how to reach him. I didn't mean to. He stumbled, his voice breaking. It's just everything feels like it's falling apart. You're working late, and when you're here, you're miles away. I don't understand why this is so important to you. I could reject his plea, could toss it aside like the remains of my laptop, but something in the rawness of his emotion pulled me closer. Was I really so lost that I had ignored how my pursuit had begun to eclipse our shared life? In that moment, clarity washed over me like a sudden summer rainstorm, refreshing yet startling. I had thought my ambition was a rebellion against the quiet despair of complacency, but perhaps it was encroaching on something much more sacred: our love, our connection. The laughter that once enveloped our evenings. I know it must feel like I'm slipping away, I said softly, leaning closer, hoping my vulnerability would pierce the barrier growing thicker between us. But please understand, I'm trying to carve out a space for me, for us. I thought if I could build something of my own, it would ultimately strengthen us. Strengthen us, he echoed bitterly, still staring at the remnants on the floor. But at what cost? Emma, you think success is a guaranteed ticket to happiness, but what if it ends up isolating you, isolating us? His words struck deeper than I had anticipated. You're right, I admitted, my voice trembling. I've been so consumed by what I could become that I lost sight of what I already have. I didn't mean to take you for granted. At that moment, the connection between us felt like a tightrope stretched over an abyss, each word a cautious step forward, yet still precarious. The air thickened with unresolved emotions, swirling with both the hope of reconciliation and the looming dread of what might follow if we couldn't bridge the chasm we'd created. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated again, the screen illuminating a message from the millionaire. Urgency clawed at me. The familiar pull of ambition wrapped around me tightly, reminding me of the opportunities that lay within reach. Yet the look in Simon's eyes urged me to stay grounded, to confront everything unraveling within the fabric of our lives. Just for a second, I need to look at this, I murmured, hesitating. I could feel the tension in Simon's gaze as I reached for my phone, worry dancing in his expression. As I opened the message, I felt the world narrow to that precise moment, the promise of transformation held just beyond the screen. Yet at what expense? You have to choose, Emma? Simon's voice broke through the static of my thoughts, raw and tinged with pain. Or soon, this won't be a matter of what you choose, it will be a matter of what you've already lost. His words hung heavily in the air, like lead weights tethering me to the ground. The stark truth of his sentiment shook me more than the crash of the laptop. My heart raced, torn between ambition and the life we had built together. Was I willing to risk it all for a chance at greatness? Or was my greatest success the love we shared? A sharp tone from my phone sliced through the tension once more. My heart hammered in my chest as I glanced at the Messagia video link, claimed to be revealing the next step in my journey. But for the first time, my stomach churned at the thought of opening it. Simon took a step back, his breath hitching, eyes darting. Was this the moment I chose my dreams over him? I could feel the damning weight of imminent choice pulsing in the air. Between us, and with each passing second, the threshold between aspiration and love blurred further. Just as I was about to voice my decision, a loud knock on the door jolted us both. It shattered the tense exchange and created waves of uncertainty that rippled through me. What now? The uncertainty clawed at my insides. Emma? A voice called from outside, firm and insistent. I recognized it immediately. My heart sank like a stone. It was my business partner, Alex, the one person who didn't understand the delicate balance I was trying to maintain between work and love. Simon looked at me, his eyes wide with apprehension, as if already sensing the storm brewing on the other side of that door. I suddenly felt trapped between two worlds, each a clear reflection of my aspirations and fears, tugging at my heart like two opposing forces bent on unraveling everything I held dear. The door trembled under Alex's persistent knock, a reminder that my choices could come flooding in like a dam breaking. I stared into Simon's eyes, longing to answer what I had been too afraid to admit until now. Yet as the knock echoed again, I realized I was not just at a crossroads. I was standing at the edge of two very different destinies, and the choice I made next could reshape everything. The door rattled once more as Alex's voice cut through the thick tension. Emma? Are you in there? We need to talk. This is urgent. For a heartbeat, time stretched into an agonizing freeze. I could feel the universe holding its breath, waiting for me to make a choice, waiting for me to decide which version of myself I wanted to embrace. The hopeful entrepreneur or the devoted partner standing before me, fragile and apprehensive. Simon couldn't hide his apprehension as he shifted slightly, the light catching the turmoil glimmering in his eyes. I searched for the right words, for the mythical silver lining that could turn this inevitable storm into a gentle rain. But the more I sought, the further away they seemed, slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. The weight of my phone in my hands felt like a lead weight, a summons to a world of ambition that was beginning to suffocate me, a relentless pressure that just wouldn't relent. I breathed in deeply, wondering if I dared to pull back the veil that the million-dollar opportunity laid before me, even as I felt the warmth of intimacy fade with every moment we lingered in uncertainty. Emma, Simon whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. What's it going to be? Are you really going to let him in? Because every second you stand there, it feels like you're choosing the world over us. His words swelled in my chest, and suddenly, the thought of opening that door felt like betrayal. I imagined stepping away from Simon, from the love that twinkled like holiday lights in my mind, and I couldn't bear it. The idea of losing him was akin to watching a candle extinguish, swallowed by darkness. My heart raced, each beat echoing my indecision louder than the knocks that now rang like alarm bells. Another loud thud reverberated through the room, and I felt a jolt of panic. The storm brewing inside me collided with Alex's stubborn insistence, forming a tempest that threatened to tear my world apart. What if this opportunity was everything I had ever dreamed of, a chance to thrive, to be independent and successful? And what if it all fell through the cracks, leaving me with nothing but the shambles of the one thing I had taken for granted? Open the door, Emma, Alex urged, impatience seeping into his tone. I can't keep waiting, this is critical. I glanced at Simon, our eyes locking in a desperate plea for understanding. for the shared language of love that always seemed to define us. He tilted his head ever so slightly, nudging me to Listento hear not just the urgency of Alex's knocks, but also the silent questions brimming in the space between us. "What do you want?" he asked, his tone now soft yet heavy. "What do you truly want right now?" That innocent question slashed through my turbulence like a ray of truth. For a moment, my heart ached with the clarity of what I desired to put the phone down, ignore the incessant calling of ambition, and step into the solace of his embrace. But deep down, beneath the layers of doubt and turmoil, I felt the fervor of my aspirations flare, igniting a longing that was impossible to extinguish. What if I didn't have to choose? What if the answer lay somewhere amid the chaos? A path that allowed for both dreams and love. Yet before I could voice my thoughts, the sound of the door handle jostling filled the air, accompanied by an exasperated sigh from Alex. "If you want come to me, I'll come to you." A cold wave of dread washed over me at the thought of my partner barging in uninvited. I could already picture the confrontation inwardly, the disappointment lining his features, the disapproval in his voicey commitment unraveling under the harsh light of reality and ambition colliding. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again, jarring me from my thoughts. An alert popped up. It was a message from the millionaire himself, a mere pittance of words meant to tease the next step I had been waiting for, accompanied by a tantalizing promise. "Your moment is here, Emma. Don't let it slip away." The battle raged inside me, each word igniting the hope of success at the cost of everything that was once sacred. I was losing precious time. Alex had become a ticking clock, counting down the seconds of indecision. But here was Simon, grounding me, reminding me of the warmth in being with someone who understood the fractures of my soul. "Emma," Simon said once more, urging the air to thicken with intention. "What do you want?" As I stood there, trapped between two realities, I felt the first petals of hope bloom cautiously inside. Surely there was a craft to mediating both worlds. I could seek knowledge from the millionaire while nurturing the love that anchored me. But first, I had to make my choice, and as Alex shook the door with increasing desperation, the choice would soon be made for me. If I didn't act, I had one foot in adventure, the other in the warmth of home. But as the door quaked under Alex's persistent insistence, I felt the very ground beneath me shattering like my laptop had moments ago. Just before deciding my next step, there came another sound, one that sent shivers down my spine and echoed in a way I wasn't prepared for, a muffled sob from the other side of the door, where Alex must have been standing, alone in his urgency. "Emma," he called again, his voice cracking this time. "I can't do this without you. You left me behind, and I need you." The heart-wrenching plea hung in the air like an uninvited guest, chilling me to my core. The lines between loyalty and ambition blurred yet again, as each pang of desperation wrapped around me like tendrils of despair. What if I had come too far? What if opening this door meant closing the door on something far more profound? What if everything shattered in its wake, under the weight of my decision, just as my dreams, or my love, threatened to do? And there it was, a moment of revelation laying bare the path I had yet to travel, a cliff of uncertainty teetering in the breeze. But as I hesitated in that silent storm, something deep within me whispered that life was not merely about choosing one over the other. It was about creating space for both, however impossibly challenging. And so, as Simon watched me with eager eyes, brimming with hope yet shadowed by apprehension, I had to decide, was it a door I was about to open, or a heart I was about to break? My answer slipped through my lips, but the finality of determining my path was as heavy as a boulder, lingering in the delicate air and loaded with unforeseen consequences. In that moment, everything changed. The silent aftermath of my breath hung precariously in the air, as if time itself had slowed, allowing the weight of my unspoken words to sink into the very fabric of the room. Simon's gaze burned through me, both a sanctuary and a cell, urging me to act, yet paralyzing me with fear. I could feel the walls close in the warmth of my ambitions and the chill of my emotions wrestling beneath the surface. "Emma," Alex called through the door again, his voice a mixture of desperation and vulnerability. "Please just open the door." The muffled sound seemed to peel back the layers of frustration, revealing the raw heart of why this had always been so complicated. Perhaps ambition alone could never justify stepping away from a relationship built on shared dreams, laughter, and the kind of love that cuts deep. Everything within me fought against this choice, clawing for an understanding that I had yet to discover for myself. My heart raced, striking an erratic rhythm as I weighed the delicate balance of possibility against the warmth of familiarity. I could turn around and embrace Simon's understanding heart or breach the boundary I had built with Alex and accept the world of ambition waiting just on the other side of that door. Emma. Alex's voice broke through my reverie, sharper this time, tilting the scales of my heart toward anguish. I can't lose you again. Not when we're so close. The sincerity laced in his tone shattered whatever defenses I had erected. A moment of clarity washed over me, a vivid imagery of my life unfurling as a tapestry of opportunities, each thread intertwined with those I loved. What could it possibly mean to seize this moment without Simon by my side? Emma. Please, Alex continued, his voice laced with anguish. I know you're in there. This isn't just about the pitch. It's about us. I felt Simon's hand reach out, finding mine hidden in the solace of our connection. His warmth surged through me in a surge of strength. Whatever you decide, they'll be right here, he whispered, but there was uncertainty in his voice, a haunting echo suggesting that my choice could sever the tether we shared. In that instant, everything crystallized around me. The relentless grind of ambition felt dull against the vibrant energy of love that washed over me in waves. I turned to Simon, searching his eyes for an anchor in this turbulent moment. I can't promise I won't get lost in the chaos if I take this opportunity, but I want to navigate it with you by my side. He nodded, though hesitance flickered in his gaze. You'll always have my support, Emma, but you need to be the one to open that door. With a deep breath, I steeled myself for the tumult ahead. Taking a tentative step toward the door, I reached for the handle. Just as I grasped it, a sudden flash of doubt crept in, knotted around my heart. What if I couldn't juggle both worlds? What if the door I chose wasn't just the entrance to a negotiation, but the edge of a precipice from which everything could tumble into despair? But before I could second-guess myself, the door rattled again, a louder, fiercer insistence that had my heart racing as if it were a racehorse at the starting gate. My fingers trembled on the handle, and in that moment of hesitation, I could feel the boundaries of my current life ready to shift beneath my feet. Emma, Alex cried out once more. The urgency in his voice sent fire racing through my veins. I need you to help me. I can't do this alone. That last word struck a deep chord within Meth, reminder that life was inherently complicated. A shared experience that extended beyond individual cravings. He truly did need me, not just as a partner in a professional opportunity, but as a person willing to walk beside him through the chaos of our intertwined ambitions and missteps. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I steadied my resolve. I turned back to Simon, giving him a soft smile, the kind that held promise amidst fear. Let's see where this leads us, I said quietly, letting hope imbue the air around us. Simon exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing ever so slightly. Whatever happens, well, figure it out together. With my heart thumping against my ribs, I turned the handle, swinging the door open to the unknown. The air felt electric, alive with potential and peril mixed into an intoxicating cocktail of emotions. Alex stood before me, his expression a mix of hope and trepidation, pulling together the strands of his newly vulnerable confidence. Thank you for coming, Emma. You have no idea how much this means. Before I could respond, a newly unveiled urgency struck my heart, a piercing realization that neither of us had anticipated the unexpected ramifications of this reunion. Just then, the glint of a small device caught my eye, the unmistakable shimmer of a recording device in Alex's hand. A tool I recognized all too well. What is that? I demanded, a gripping fear knotting my stomach as out of the corner of my eye, I saw Simon stiffen, the tension instantly palpable. Alex hesitated, a gaze flitting from my wide eyes to the ground, as a storm brewed anew within the depths of our unresolved rifts. It's for the pitch, Alex stammered, his bravado fleeing as uncertainty seeped back into the atmosphere. I thought it was supposed to help us if you agreed. As the implications settled over us like a heavy blanket, I felt my breath hitch in my chest. A naive hope had indeed crystallized in that moment. Yet above us loomed the shadows of scrutiny and turmoil, the very chaos I had hoped to avoid. And with the door now ajar, we had stepped into a reality more complicated than I ever fathomed. Balance, I searched for, teetering once more on the edge of fracture. The walls felt as though they were closing in again. The solid foundation of love, ambition, and newfound vulnerability compromising under the strain. What does this mean for us? I asked, the weight of my own question hanging heavily in the air. It was no longer merely about the pitch or the potential, but about the trust we might be trading in the pursuit of our dreams. As I stood there, gauging the fallout of my choice, a lump rose in Simon's throat, and an uncertain silence cloaked the room, echoing with the heartbeat of what was truly at stake. The ground beneath our feet had shifted, and what lay ahead was more intricate and fragile than I could ever articulate. As my heart thundered, the truth loomed nearer, veiling the precipice of potential and parting our shared ambitions into wild new territories. I faced the man before me, shadow of a past intertwined with dreams yet realized, and felt, for the first time, the weight of decisions that could either uplift or ubiquitously drag me under, a quiet recognition of the haunting yet beautiful chaos I had just entered. The air around us thickened with unresolved tensions, the flickering tension in Simon's eyes revealing a truth I couldn't ignore. There was an unspoken understanding trapped between us, tangled in the heat of ambition and the chill of betrayal. "Emma," he began, his voice steady but low, "we need to talk about this. You can't just jump into this without thinking of the repercussions." Alex's gaze darted from Simon to me, a storm of confusion swirling behind his eyes. The sheer weight of what he had just laid at my feet seemed too heavy for anyone to bear, and the simmering disappointment festered between us like an open wound. I could feel a shift, a dawning realization that our simple reunion meant to reignite the passion for our shared vision had morphed into a complex web of hidden motives and unthought desires. "Alex," I said, my voice trembling slightly as I pressed against the overwhelming urge to retreat. "You didn't talk to me about this. You should have asked before bringing a recording device into us." "Emma," Alex pleaded, desperation flooding his tone. "I just thought if I had a backup plan, something to help if this didn't go as we hoped." A heavy silence enveloped us, each second elongating as hesitation wrapped its arms around my heart. This wasn't just about a project, Anna Maria, it was about trust, the essence of what had once intertwined our paths so tightly. I opened my mouth, words trapped at the edge of my lips, but they fell away like autumn leaves landing on cold ground. Simon's presence beside me was both a comfort and a reminder of what was at stake. His fist clenched at his side, a mixture of frustration and an urgency to diffuse the tension stifling our reunion. "What was the plan here, Alex? To record your way to the top at Emma's expense?" His voice rose slightly, fury brewing beneath the surface. "Stop. Just stop," I interrupted, raising my hands. "This isn't helping anything." My heart raced not only from fear but from the growing complexity of our circumstances. I saw the hurt flash in Simon's eyes, uncovering the unending layers of emotion that tangling relationships often obscure. "I need to think," I whispered, taking a deliberate step back, creating space amidst the suffocating uncertainty. "Emma, please." Alex reached towards me, but I felt like I was swimming against a current of submerged feelings too powerful to ignore. The urgency of the moment had rendered me immobile, questioning not only this partnership but the very foundation of my own choices. "I always thought we were on the same team, but it feels as if you've gone behind my back," I said, my voice cracking under the strain. The bitter taste of betrayal clung to my tongue, making it hard to breathe. "What about the trust we built, Alex? What about the love?" Simon stepped closer, a protective barrier, anchoring me in the storm that was threatening to tear apart our fragile union. "This isn't just your decision, Emma. It's ours." His eyes held mine, pleading for clarity as the shadows deepened between us. As the heaviness of the conversation continued to compress my chest, I chose to look away, searching for strength in the chaos that surrounded our shared moment. I could feel the hum of anxiety echoed in the walls around us as if the air itself held its breath, waiting for clarity to strike. "Please," Alex said, his voice tinged with sincerity. "I just want to help us get where we need to go. I thought we could do this together." But now he trailed off, the weight of his words filling the silence with a burden I didn't know how to carry. "Now what?" I prompted, feeling anger and helplessness curl their fingers around my heart. "What is your plan, Alex? To record me? Ensure that my own voice is played over my dreams?" The silence that followed was deafening, the implications of our unsteady triangle unfolding in real time. I could see the vulnerability flickering across Alex's facade, layered deep beneath his bravado, battling against the shame of what he had attempted to do. "We're still so close to the launch, Emma," he finally admitted, his tone softer, more desperate. "I thought this could protect us." "Protect you?" That last line twisted the knife a little deeper, as I felt the ache of unfulfilled promises press against my chest. The threads of our past tangled so tightly with our present that I couldn't discern where one ended and the other began. As I faced Alex's searching eyes, a small part of me couldn't shake off the rising warmth of compassion that sparked briefly inside the familiarity of a bond once cherished. "Maybe we need to take a step back, figure out our core values and trust before charging forward like this," I said, my heart breaking at the prospect of it all. "Because I feel like we're almost to the brink of destroying something beautiful." The room grew heavy with that notion, echoing the rift that had quietly spread between us. I turned back to Simon, needing his grounding presence more than ever. His eyes softened at my plea, yet they also encompassed a world of uncertainty that mirrored my own. Just then, the door creaked as it swung subtly in the breeze, bringing with it an unexpected gust of warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill wrapping around our hearts. "Maybe we can create something new together," Simon finally spoke, but his voice was softer now, resting on the suggestion of reconciliation rather than a plea for confrontation. The thought gave me pause. It was a flicker of something hopeful amid the conflict, reminding me of the love still nurtured deep within as I stood there, torn between the loyalty to a past that begged for revival and a future creeping into view. A silence that led a fragile moment suspended in time. Yet, the tension was ever palpable, weaving through us like smoke. Before clarity could descend upon us, however, the door burst open, revealing a familiar face I had not anticipated to see. It was Clara, my confidant and mentor, her wide eyes filled with concern, and she barely had a moment to absorb the scene before her. "What is going on?" she asked, her voice cutting through our fragile moment like a knife. And in that instant, I felt the world shift again, an unforeseen layer crashing down around us, and with it opened a Pandora's box of possibilities that none of us were prepared to confront. My heart raced as I looked from Clara to Simon and then back to Alex, understanding finally dawning, this wasn't just about trust or ambition. This was a reckoning unleashing across our lives. The complexities that lay ahead felt darker than the shadows already cast, and I was left teetering on the edge of uncertainty, searching for a light to guide my steps before the abyss opened wide beneath me again. The chill of Clara's entry sent tremors through the room, her presence a stark contrast to the heaviness that had wrapped around us moments before. I felt an unsettling mix of relief and trepidation as she stepped forward, sensing the discord like a seasoned navigator who had just uncovered a storm at sea. "Clara, you caught us at a complicated moment," I managed to say, my voice trembling slightly. I glanced at Simon and Alex, both of whom wore expressions that matched my sentiment, caught between the weight of secrets and the vulnerability of our intentions. Clara surveyed us, her brow furrowed with concern. "Complicated moments can turn into catalysts for change, Emma. Sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes." Her gaze flicked from Simon to Alex, noting the tension coiling tightly around our bodies. "What's happening here?" I opened my mouth to explain, yet the words caught in my throat, teetering on the brink of comprehension and chaos. Did I even understand it myself? I couldn't help but feel the room grow colder as silence settled like an unwelcome fog. Alex brought a recording device into our meeting, I finally said, my heart pounding as I faced Clara, determined to reveal the truth despite the heat of embarrassment pooling in my cheeks. He thought it might protect our project. Protect what? Simon's voice cut through my mounting anxiety, a hard edge creeping in. By undermining trust. Trust? Clara interjected, her tone shifting from concern to curiosity. If that's the crux of the matter, it's worth unpacking. She gestured for us to sit, her authoritative presence cutting through the tension. Reluctantly, I sank into the sofa, with Simon at my side, while Alex hovered hesitantly across from us. His expression haunted as Clara began to talk. I felt a mix of hope and trepidation. It's critical to understand that trust can be built again, but it takes vulnerability, she started, her voice steady as she locked eyes with each of us in turn. You've all invested too much in each other to walk away out of fear or misunderstanding. What you're facing right now is not the end, it's a crossroads that I swallowed hard, hoping her words were more than rhetoric. I glanced between Simon and Alex, uncertain how to bridge the gulf that had opened between us. A chasm of betrayal and hurt that felt too wide to cross. But how do we rebuild what's broken? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The fissures in our foundation of trust feel insurmountable now. Clara considered this for a moment, her brow furrowed. It starts with honesty, even when it's painful. Why did you feel the need to record, Alex? She turned to him, her gaze penetrating. Alex ran a hand through his hair, a familiar gesture of frustration that only deepened my ache. I didn't want to jeopardize our hard work. I thought if it was recorded, I could clarify things if they went sideways. But I see now how wrong that was. His voice cracked with the weight of regret, a rawness emerging that made my heart ache anew. Regret can be a powerful catalyst, Clara encouraged, but it only works if you allow it to guide you toward sincerity. All of you need to share your fears and ambitions openly. What do you each stand to lose, and what do you hope to gain? What lay beneath her inquiry felt achingly relevant, and as I looked into Simon's concerned gaze, I saw reflections of my own trepidation and vulnerability staring back at me. I fear losing not just this project but what I thought we shared, what I thought was an unbreakable bond. I admitted, no longer able to hold back the swell of emotions that threatened to spill forth. The weight of my confession hung heavy in the air, and I could see Alex struggling with his own, a tempest of emotions behind his eyes. And I fear the very same, he replied, his voice filled with anguish, that I've overshadowed everything with my own ambition, and it could cost us everything we fought for together. Ambition is not the enemy, Clara asserted gently. It's how you choose to wield that ambition. You must decide whether to use it to elevate each other or to drag each other down. Suddenly, a flicker of unexpected warmth surged through me, fueled by Clara's unwavering kindness. As she spoke, I felt the possibility of rebuilding rising in my chest, a small flame igniting amidst the turmoil. Can we truly move forward, though? I hesitated, the doubt still poised at the edge of my thoughts. That I believe you can, Clara said, her gaze firm yet gentle. But it won't be easy. The road ahead is line-marked by honest dialogues, shared burdens, and even moments of doubt. The path isn't linear, and neither are relationships. Just as hope began to seep into my bones, revitalizing my outlook, the phone on the table vibrated menacingly, the sudden sound a jarring contrast to the fragile atmosphere surrounding us. I glanced down, my breath hitching as I recognized the name flashing on the screen, the head of the project committee. Someone I had always viewed as a mentor, but who now felt more like an adversary. A chill shot through me as I picked up the phone, my heart racing in anticipation. It's Tara, I said, memories of past meetings flashing through my mind. I can't believe she's calling now. Answer it, Simon urged softly, his eyes fixed on mine, sharing a silent reassurance through the storm still gathering within the room. Hand trembling, I accepted the call, my voice shaking as I greeted her. Tara, as her voice poured through the speaker, laden with urgency and contention. She dropped a bombshell that left the room spinning. Emma, we need to discuss the implications of Alex's actions. There are some things you need to know that could change everything. The color drained from my face as dread gripped my heart. Silence enveloped the room, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. While I realized the depth of what lay ahead, the uncharted territory of revelations that could either sever our fragile ties or redefine our destinies forever. And as the clock continued to tick, I understood this was far from over, and the consequences of our choices loomed larger than I could have ever imagined. The moment Clara's words faded, all I could hear was the pounding of my heart, echoing the tension in the room. The air felt thick with unsaid things, shadows lurking at the edges of our conversation. My grip on the phone tightened as I fought through the haze of Tara's message, feeling as though I were standing on the precipice of something dark and unknown. "Emma," Tara continued, her voice crisp and unyielding. "You need to understand the stakes we're facing with this project, especially after the recording incident. I can't stress enough how delicate the situation is. We're on a razor's edge." Simon's steady gaze met mine, urging me on as an unspoken pact passed between us. Whatever storm lay ahead, we would weather it together. I took a deep breath. "What do you mean?" My voice wobbled despite my best efforts to project confidence. "If you're not careful, this could affect not just your project but your reputations as well. The committee is concerned." There was a pause, a gravity to her words that seemed to bury the last flickers of hope Clara had ignited within me. "There's talk of reconsidering your leadership roles. I have to advocate for you, but we need a united front." The implications of her words crashed over me like a tidal wave, filling my mind with dread. My eyes flickered to Alex, who looked as if he had been struck. His ambition, once a beacon of promise, now felt more like a shackle binding us to a fate we hadn't chosen. Do you think it's irreparable?" I asked, the question trembling in the air as I could see my own fear reflected in Simon's eyes. "What if this was the end of everything we had built together?" "Not if you act quickly. But it starts with ownership of the mistakes," Tara replied, her tone softening slightly. "You must show the committee that you are united, brave enough to face both the challenges and the consequences." As the call ended, an eerie silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating, echoing the weight of Tara's ultimatum. I leaned back against the sofa, closing my eyes for a brief moment, drowning in a tumult of uncertainty. The fragile flame of hope Clara had kindled threatened to flicker and die as the enormity of our situation settled like a stone in my chest. "Emma," Clara's voice broke through my haze, steady and soothing. "You must understand that what happens next could define you. This is your chance to choose how you want to be perceived in your work and in your relationships. Do you really think we can mend this?" I asked, my voice breathy with doubt as I turned to the group. "The question is not if you can mend it but how much you are willing to invest. Can you put personal pride aside for the sake of something greater?" Clara replied, her empathy cutting through the knots of fear. "I don't want to lose this," Alex finally spoke, his voice hoarse as he stared down at his hands. "I don't want to lose us." There was a vulnerability in his admission that made my chest tighten, and I could see Simon's guard beginning to crack just a little. "I want to believe we can fight this," I confessed, the sense of urgency rising in me like a tide. "But how? How can we show the committee that we're a team, even after everything that's happened?" "By having the hard conversations," Clara encouraged, her gaze unwavering. "Show them what you're made of, not just as individuals but as a united force. You still have each other, and that means something." With a flicker of determination ignited within me, I stood up, feeling the weight of Clara's words wrapping around me like armor. "Let's confront this together," I said, my resolve hardening. "Let's show them that we're not backing down. Let's turn this into something they can't ignore." Alex nodded, his expression shifting from despair to a glimmer of renewed hope. Simon's features softened, and for the first time, I saw a chord of unity resonate in him as well. But just as I felt the momentum build, a sudden noise from the entrance jarred everyone, stealing the moment from our grasp. A knock, followed by the unmistakable sound of the door swinging open. My heart plummeted as I turned to see a figure, stepping in, silhouetted against the hallway light. It was Tara, appearing more formidable up close than ever before. "Sorry to intrude," she said coolly, her eyes scanning our frazzled assembly. "But we must discuss the committee's final decision." The air shifted drastically, and my breath hitched, dread clawing at my insides. Just when it seemed we might surmount our challenges, a new reality crashed over USA, reality that threatened everything we had fought for, and perhaps even our connection itself. The weight of the news felt insurmountable. The storm was brewing, and it was poised to strike when we least expected it. What awaited us on the other side felt infinitely more daunting than anything we had faced before. As Tara stepped into the room, the charged atmosphere shifted dramatically. Her presence loomed over us, commanding attention while heightening the oppressive weight of what we had just collectively realized were standing on a precipice, teetering between the fragility of our fractured relationships and the hope of redemption. "I hope you're all ready for what I have to say," she began, her tone clipped but steady. The seriousness in her demeanor was unmistakable, and instantly, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. The remnants of our earlier resolve battled against the rising tide of panic. What if our opportunities were lost forever because of that damn recording? What if Tara walked in and shattered everything we had worked for, every resolve we had rekindled in our hearts? "Emma, Simon, Alex," she said, her gaze landing firmly on each of us in turn, "we've been reviewing both the circumstances surrounding the recording incident and your joint application for leadership roles in the project." I could feel Simon's hand tighten around mine, our lifeline. "The team has expressed concerns about transparency and trust issues you must address if you wish to keep your positions." A lump formed in my throat. So this was it. The reckoning. Our journey had led us here, to this pivotal moment, and if we didn't act with courage, our chances might slip through our fingers like grains of sand. "What do we need to do?" Alex asked, desperation spilling into his words. It was the question that echoed in all our minds, the answer we needed but which felt elusive in that moment. Tara took a deep breath, her expression softening slightly, but not enough to mask the seriousness of the situation. "You need to present a united front before the committee, show them that you can move past this with transparency and collaboration. It won't be easy, but—" She paused, looking down at the floor for a moment before meeting our eyes again. "It can be done if you're willing to put aside personal pride and fear." As her words hung in the air, a glimmer of realization washed over me. This was our moment. This was where we could turn our turmoil into strength. What Clara had said about vulnerability echoed in my mind. This was the time to lay ourselves bare. I took a step forward, the uncertainty clearing slightly as clarity bound my thoughts. "What if we face the committee together?" I suggested, my voice trembling yet firm. "We lay everything out, our mistakes, our fears, our hopes." The thought of it felt terrifying. Yet what we had endured felt far more powerful than fear. I caught Simon's gaze, searching for courage. His eyes held a flicker of something to shift, perhaps, and he nodded, as if realizing he was no longer alone in this battle. "We can't hide the truth anymore. It's time to own up to our mistakes." There was a strength in his words, bolstered by an unbreakable bond that had endured the worst storm we could have imagined. "And if it means losing everything, then at least we can walk away with our integrity intact," Alex added, his voice cracked but resolute. I had not expected such unabashed honesty from him after so much had transpired. Tara's eyes widened slightly, surprised by the unity beginning to blossom amid the turbulent waters. "You may find the committee responds to authenticity. The truth can sometimes become your greatest asset," she responded softly. Just as realization began to filter through the fog of uncertainty, a flicker of vulnerability flashed across my vision. I turned back to Clara, who remained silent by the door, eyes shining with quiet resolve that underlined our transformation. "Thank you, Clara," I said, voice filled with gratitude, "for your support, your unwavering belief in us." She smiled gently, the warmth from her presence igniting another flicker of courage. "This is what you need, a foundation to rebuild upon. Don't forget that." At that moment, everything began to shift. With every word exchanged, the fragments of trust that had splintered started circling back, weaving a delicate tapestry of newfound strength in the intricate pattern of our shared vulnerabilities, uncovering an unyielding bond ready to tackle whatever lay ahead. As I glanced back at Simon, who squeezed my hand tighter, the weight of our connection filled the space, reminding me of its power. We would face whatever was thrown our way together, side by side. "Let's do this," I whispered, the determination budding within me blooming into certainty. "We're in this together." And with that, we stepped forward into the storm, each of us bringing our weight of truths, our hopes, and our willingness to confront everything that loomed ahead, unguarded and unyielding. Just a few moments later, we found ourselves standing before the committee. As I stepped into the meeting room, I felt the pulse of anticipation drum in my veins, the butterflies swirling in my stomach oddly balancing each off-era blend of fear and hope. The committee members were seated, their expressions unreadable. But in that moment, I took a deep breath, the weight of colossal expectations settling over me, and I felt empowered. Together, we would share our story. As a team, we're here to acknowledge our faults and express our unwavering commitment to this project and each other. I began, and with each word I spoke, I could feel the growing strength of Simon at my side, the steadiness of Alex beside me, and the unwavering belief in our coach. I realized the truth in Clara's words: the journey was never linear. It was never without struggles and sleepless nights. Both our dreams and our love intertwined were the very fabric of who we were. Bearing our souls together, I could feel the room breathe with clarity, and for the first time in a long while, we were no longer just fighting for opportunities found on the horizon. We were indelibly crafting our destiny, and there, amidst all the noise, as we laid bare our truths, I felt a profound sense of closure, like the gentle embrace of dusk settling into place after a tumultuous day. Sometimes, the most powerful transformations are born from the darkest moments shared in light, and together, we stepped forward into an uncharted, yet hopeful tomorrow, hearts intertwined, tethered by everything that mattered. We're not perfect, I concluded, voice steady, but we are willing to learn and grow from this. And that's just the beginning. As I finished, the silence in the room resonated deeply, humming with the understated beauty of vulnerability and resilience. For in our willingness to embrace the chaos, we had awakened something profound within every one of us, and with it came the promise of healing, rebirth, and a future illuminated by the very love and ambition that brought us together in the first place. And this moment, I realized that perhaps life's greatest journey wasn't merely seeking success, but learning how to weave together the mess of our insecurities and hopes into something that resembled our shared story, one that promised to evolve beneath the stars we dared to chase. And standing there, against the echoing backdrop of all that had come before, I took a deep breath, and as hope filled my heart, I whispered to myself, "Well blazed this trail together."